Okay, so I'm back after a brief microphone test. Okay, so I have probably going to be a long one today because I started myself a little Bible study. Like I don't know, this is probably a week old, and the thing that happens is I get an idea for a video, and then I start researching the idea, and so ideally, I should probably do the video in the same day that I do the research, but if the research takes me hours, I just am like, good job. And then I go and eat cheese fries. And so that's what I did. And so now I got this big page of, oh, sorry, you probably heard that. Like, I don't know. It's my little microphone. It just fell over. I got this big page of research that I don't really remember where I was going with it entirely. Like I see it and I go, I remember doing it. This is what the page looked like, by the way. Look at that. Look at that. Because, it's very reminiscent of undergrad with me having notebooks full of whatever. So, I'm 40 years old. So it doesn't hurt me necessarily to pick up my phone or a piece of technology and do this. I'm like, write it down, write it down. So, yeah, I don't know if you saw all the scriptures. It got deep. It got really deep because look at all the scriptures on the side, bruh, bruh. I mean, insane. So, that it literally was like this rabbit hole. I think I started going down. So that's why I'm going live because you don't care, but that's why I'm going live because to use my phone, I really need to use this app to even refresh my memory in like whatever. So I need my phone to do that. And I'm going to wing this for you today. So basically, I'm not one of those Christians that's going to say that I completely and fully understand certain things just because we say them all the time. This thing's about to get fired, bro. Like, because it's really not even doing as good a job as my actual computer microphone. Like, I thought I was going to get like some podcast quality sound out of this thing. And maybe I am. And maybe this is just an echoey place. Oh, doesn't this have like control thingies? I don't know what these things mean. It's not even really indicating that it's like on. Maybe I should turn the volume up. Uh-oh. Was I supposed to turn the volume up? Now it's not doing anything. See, this is why I don't try to do anything. It literally works for every other person in the world, and then it gets to me and it's all weird. All right. So yeah, so I'm not one of those people that is going to be like, okay, well, the kingdom of heaven suffereth violence and the violent take it by force and just quote that like I know what the hell I'm talking about. I don't know what that message means. And what happens is like you might get it one time, you're like, oh, I got it. But your grasp of it is still so limited that it goes away and then you're like, I had it and I don't remember. So for me, that it's that way with certain passages. And I know it's because like once you come across it in life, then you're like, I got it. That's like the easiest way to remember, to understand the things in the Bible is when you come across it in life. That's why it's good to listen to testimonies because other people might come across it in life and you hear their explanation. You go, that makes so much sense when you said it. Or they're literally going through something that illuminates it for you. Like when I watched I Survived and that guy was talking about how he was about to get crushed by this combine. He was a farmer and he was out there alone and nobody knew he was out there. And, he was like, oh, I know what I can do. I can just feed it my arm and then I can get free. And it became like the best news in the world at that moment to just like be like, I know I can just have it sever my arm off and then I can get out and then I can live. And it made me understand that passage where Jesus talks about If your eye causes you to sin, gouge it out. If your right arm causes you to sin, cut it off. And it was like, bruh, that's like, and hearing that testimony made me realize what he was saying, and why we weren't able to get it is because he's trying to convey to you how effing bad it is to be in hell, like, or to die, basically. I mean, that's what he considers death, is not you just dying here, it's dying there. So we all understand it when we're in a survival situation, that it's better to lose an arm than to lose your whole life. So when I heard that passage, I understood. Or when I saw that testimony, I understood that the problem that we don't understand the passage is not in the language, it's that we don't understand the severity of what he's trying to show us about what hell is, and how it's better to just lose one part of your body than to be there. Like, and it's, in 2024 or whenever I read that passage, it's very hard to sort of get that around, wrap your mind around that type of terror, especially when it's sunny outside and the garbage man's coming by and picking up your trash. You're just like, dude, that sounds like relax. Like, that's kind of drastic. And it's like, no, you don't understand. So, yeah, stuff like that. So that's happened a lot for me, and that illuminates the Bible a lot. But there are certain things, especially this very, very, very popular passage that gets quoted by Christians and non-Christians alike, about not judging. And literally, it's almost like you're not even really allowed to admit that you don't understand this passage. It's like, well, it says it right there. And it's like, I see what it's saying. I understand the words, but it's like, fundamentally, I keep forgetting what this passage even means because I cannot grasp it. And so, I don't know, one particular day I was like, okay, I'm going to wrestle this passage down to the ground. I'm going to do all types of research and whatever's, right? So it started out very innocently, where I was going to look up, and when you have this app, which is just a miracle, this whole thing is a miracle. We really have no excuse for not understanding anything in the Bible, because now we have something that we just click a button, and then it's like, here's the Greek, here's the Hebrew, here's literally every translation that's ever been out about what other words were used, or how this passage was interpreted for other whatever. I mean, so you got no excuse, you know what I'm saying? So I think the best way, since I don't really remember like how I would have structured this when I did this research, I'm going to just go, I don't know, chronologically, let's say, and just kind of go down what my logic probably would have been, because I know what I would have thought. So immediately I went to the passage, do not judge lest ye be judged, right? That is Matthew 7:1. Okay. So I went to Matthew 7:1. For in the same way that you judge others, you will be judged, and with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. Now, I have a elementary school child's grasp of this concept, spiritually. I don't feel like I could explain this with any type of like precision to someone else. They would just get it would just be another elementary school student to, a toddler, you know what I'm saying? And I understand the measure that you use, it will be measured to you. And the more that I live, the better my elementary school grasp of it gets, but not by much. Do you know what I'm saying? Because if you're a Christian, you know that you grapple with this because you know that you're supposed to, it's not that you're not supposed to have an opinion on what other people do. And that's not what the passage means. A lot of people interpret the passage as, look the other way while other people do stuff, let somebody get in all your crap and look at that too. And it's like, that's not what it means. And you know that. But, what's going on? It just seems it's very loaded. And then you see other places where Jesus is telling you to judge, situations, this and that. Well, when I decided that I was going to tackle this passage, I had no idea what I had unleashed, because the first thing that I realized was I went to the words. I went to the interlinear of the Greek, okay? And it goes into the translated words. And I'm looking at the word for judge, and it's apparently krino, G2919 in Strong's Concordance, okay? So I'm looking at it. It's a verb, okay? Then I click on the word, the G2919, and it doesn't, like, it says the outline of the biblical usage. So it's not necessarily the definition strictly, but you may as well call it that. But it's basically saying how the Bible uses this word. So to separate, put asunder, to pick out, select, or choose. That's number one. I don't feel like when he's saying that there, that's the one that he's using it for. Then it says to approve, esteem, to prefer. That may be it. Because you get a sense of like a premature, don't judge anything, but you also get the idea of it being, don't judge anything good or bad before it's time, not just good. And then it says to be of the opinion, deem, think, to be of an opinion. I don't think that's how he's using it. He's not saying don't have an opinion lest you have an opinion be made about yourself. That can't be the whatever. Then it says to determine. There's literally 7 uses of it, and some of them have sub-uses, okay? So then it says to determine, resolve, or decree. Possibly it could be used to say that. Do not determine something before it's time, kind of the implication. And then we get to 5, to judge. Sub-use, to pronounce an opinion concerning right and wrong. To pronounce judgment, to subject or censure. So that means to pronounce a judgment like a judge would. Do not pronounce judgment lest you have judgment pronounced on you. That is a possible usage. Then the next one is to rule or to govern, which doesn't really fit what he's saying either, because that's a little bit more, to rule and to govern is kind of this objective, unbiased thing. I don't think that's what he means. Then the last one is to contend together of warriors and combatants. Subuse, to dispute. Also in a forensic sense, to go to law or have a suit at law. Okay, so of the 7 outlines of biblical usage, there's a couple that it seems to fit. So then I got curious and I was like, well, let's see when in the Bible, the other times in the Bible, this word is used. So literally, I sort of had to categorize, or I didn't have to, I decided, I took it upon myself to categorize all the uses of this word, this one word. Because what word do we have in our human language or English language? Judge. That's the only word we got. It's the only word we got. And so we sort of have the same problem that this Greek translation is putting forth, which is that not only is the concept of what he's putting forth kind of more complex than we're giving it credit for, but the word itself is more complex than we're giving it credit for, and is used in all these varieties of ways. So here's all of the ways that I, it was sort of on the top of my on the top of my head, just based on all the different types of ways that I remember hearing about judging in the Bible. And sort of expanded when I started doing this study. So the first one that came to my mind was, what I interpreted as kind of what Jesus was meaning in the passage. And when you read his whole statement, you kind of understand where he's going with it. So, so the first type of judging that I referred to was this one in Matthew 7, where it says, "Judge not, lest ye be judged." Okay. And that one was kind of like a sort of non-criminal, sort of not only non-criminal, but like, even if you want to say criminal versus civil, okay? Like, even in the civil sense, it's like this sort of immaterial, it's the things that we have to judge in life that are immaterial, that kind of don't require judgment necessarily. Like, if you do something criminal, there's going to be a judge for that. Okay. Somebody's going to come and judge that. Okay. But then there's things that we do in life that are not necessarily against the law, are not necessarily going to be called out or, given any restitution. They just happen. Or, if it's something like a person's appearance, what I'm saying? It's like you judge that, it's immaterial, it's sort of inward, he's talking about a judging that can get past everyone else, but not him. Do you know what I mean? He's saying, don't do that inside because that counts. And this is sort of, to me, is like quintessential God. This is what differentiates him between him and any other God and pretty much every other person too. It's that thing that one of my favorite things in the Old Testament law is when he says something like, don't curse a deaf man and don't lead a blind man into a pit. I am the Lord. Like, that is one of the laws he gave them. And it's this, to me, it's like one of the things that completely differentiates him from everyone. It's this idea of like, here's these two scenarios that you think that you're completely safe in being accused of any type of wrongdoing, because no one can see, he can't hear that you cursed him, and he can't see that you're leading him into a pit, but I can see that shit. So don't do it. Like, this is like one of the laws. This is what, if you're going to be my people, we can't have none of that. And it's like, you can see that's probably a revolutionary thing. Like, we are sort of used to that ethos now because it's been thousands of years, and basically our entire Christian tradition is familiar with this sort of internal, like, the morality starts in here and comes out. But like back then, that was like, oh, okay. Like, maybe they could see why it mattered, but it was like, it's like the basis on which like so much of the laws are based. Even when you think of the two commandments that are the greatest commandments, is love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. You see that sort of intertwined with that is this idea of like, what you do in the shadows, what you do when nobody is around, is like part and parcel with that. You cannot separate these things. So that to me is like the essence of kind of the type of judging he's talking about in that passage. It's an inward thing. And so, yeah, he says that in Matthew 7:1, and then again in Luke 6:37, do not judge and you will not be judged. Do not condemn and you will not be condemned. Forgive and you will be forgiven. So he's not talking about people who are in a position to condemn. If you're a judge, he's not giving you this, like, don't condemn, anyone lest you be condemned. You have to condemn people to death. You have to do that job. He's talking about on an individual basis. And then there's an outward kind that's sort of the same thing. When this inward type of judging spills out into your words or into your conduct or whatever. And I felt like, because I looked at every single instance of this word being used, this Krino G2919. And I felt like the closest, this isn't very common either, by the way. The judging that he's talking about, that I feel like he's outlining in this passage that people like to bring up. I only found what I felt like were 4 feasible instances of it. 2 of them were just him saying the same thing in 2 different gospels. And then that's the inward type. And then the outward type, Acts 23:3. This is when Paul is before the Sanhedrin. And I think what happened was someone like struck him or something while he was talking. And then Paul says, God will strike you, you whitewashed wall. You sit there to judge me according to the law, yet you yourself violate the law by commanding that I be struck. So someone commanded that somebody strike him like while he was talking. And that's what he said. So they're judging him. It's starting inward and now it's coming out. And it's causing them to do things to him. And then the other instance I saw was Romans 14:10. Who are you to judge someone else's servant? To their own master, servants stand or fall, and they will stand, for the Lord is able to make them stand. So he's talking about, I think this is when he is, okay, good. Okay, so there's one right before that, and I put it in a different category because I don't even see it on here. But it says, the one who eats everything must not treat with contempt the one who does not. And the one who does not eat everything must not judge the one who does, for God has accepted them. And then, so that's the previous verse. And then it says, who are you to judge someone else's servant? So he's talking about like in this sort of metaphorical, I don't know, whatever, non-material way of judging that doesn't result in any outward thing necessarily besides strife. So those were literally the only 2 instances that I found of that type of judging that Jesus is talking about there. Literally, okay? The rest of it is a completely different type of judging than what people use that passage for. People use that passage as a catch-all for all type of stuff. And so I think when I got, I don't know, I guess the motive for anybody trying to understand that passage is so that they won't be sort of manipulated into letting evil run rampant, because according to Jesus, we're not supposed to judge. But, there's so many types of judging, and there's very few examples of this sort of inward thing that doesn't give you a penalty if you do it or not, but God sees it anyway. Okay, so the next kind that I saw was the type of judging that is of the conscience. For example, Romans 14:13. Therefore, let us stop passing judgment on one another. Instead, make up your mind not to put any stumbling block or obstacle in the way of a brother or sister. Okay. So, okay. And then I got 14:22. So whatever you believe about these things, keep between yourself and God. Blessed is the one who does not condemn himself by what he approves. And that word condemn is the same word that Krino G2919, that is just means judging. They use the same word there. Okay. So in the first instance, therefore, let us stop passing judgment, Krino. So whatever you believe about these things, blah, 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 blessed is the one who does not Krino himself by what he approves. It's the same word. Okay. And then another instance is 1 Corinthians 7:37. But the man who has settled the matter in his own mind, who is under no compulsion, but has control over his own will, and who has made up his mind not to marry the virgin, that's the issue at hand, this man also does the right thing. So he's talking about, there was some type of dispute over, whether you should go ahead and marry or not, or whatever it was. And I imagine, I don't remember which word, I don't want to click on it because it's going to take me away from my whatever. But I imagine it's probably this word settled the matter. The man who has crinoed the matter in his own mind. So this is about making decisions of the conscience. Same word, okay? And then there's another instance that I put down of like judging even after you had complete information, the full story and time has passed and all of that. Okay. And then you make a judgment based on that, right? So the instance that I saw of that is 1 Corinthians 4:5. Therefore, judge nothing before the appointed time. So there's an instance where you do have complete info and a situation where you have incomplete info and time. Even with time, the information is still incomplete, right? So that's what this one is. Therefore, judge nothing before the appointed time. Wait until the Lord comes. He will bring to light what is hidden in the darkness and will expose the motives of the heart. At that time, each will receive their praise from God. Okay? And then 1 Corinthians 5:3, it says, for my part, even though I'm not physically present, I'm with you in spirit. As one who is present with you in this way, I have already passed judgment in the name of our Lord Jesus on the one who has been doing this. I think this is about the guy who married his husband's or his father's wife, either his mom or his stepmom or whatever. So he passed judgment already on this person. Now you see how it already kind of seems contradictory from what Jesus said, because there's so many different types of judging. So I'm not even close to being done. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay. So it's almost like we have this judging mechanism, and it's really just about using it properly and making sure that you're using it properly and that it's in proper working order so that it's not giving you a bad result. It's not even about doing this, doing that. It's like this thing is like this wheel that's like really sensitive, and if you don't have the right heart, you will use it wrong. So, and yeah, in some instances you shouldn't use it at all. Just don't use it. But in a lot of situations, you're going to have to use it. Here's when you use it. You know what I'm saying? So, so yeah, then I got another type of judging, which is judging a closed, blatant action that has happened. It's not this ongoing thing. It's not, this person dresses like this, and so I'm going to judge them, every time I see them on an ongoing basis. This is somebody did this one closed, blatant thing. And it's in John 12:47. I have a feeling like this is going to be like a positive or a negative judge situation, because that's the other thing too. You can see that the word can't possibly mean just what the way it's being used in Matthew, because you see where this same word is being used to judge something, condemn something is absolutely wrong, no bones about it. So it can't just mean like leave everything loosey-goosey, but there is a lot of that too in the spirit of this word. So let's see, John 12:47. Okay, I stand corrected, but not really though. But listen, if anyone hears my words, but does not keep them, I do not kreno that person. Why does he not? For I did not come to kreno the world, but to save the world. So that's Jesus saying, here's a closed, blatant action. You heard my words, but you didn't keep them. Guess what? I'm not going to judge you. Not because it's not right, but because I'm not here to do that. I'm here to save the world. So, but we see later that he's going to say where he does have the right to judge, just not right in that sense. And it's not saying that you'll go on without being judged. He's just saying he ain't gonna be the one to do that. He's here to be the sacrifice for the world, not to judge you. Okay. And then, and look, this is my point exactly. The very next verse. There is a judge for the one who rejects me and does not accept my words. Then he says, the very words I have spoken will kreno them at the last day. So the reason why he don't have to judge you is because his words is going to judge you. He's not. He's like, technically, I didn't do it. My words did, but it wasn't me. Because he said what it was. He makes the law. He don't have to go around chasing everybody. He said, you're not, no speeding in your residential area, and you did all that speeding anyway. He's not gonna come in every single time that you did speeding and come down and whatever. He's just gonna let his words do that, and your fine's just gonna rack it up. Like, he doesn't need to physically come and do that every single time you make a mistake. I don't know. That's kind of how I read that. Okay, and then so that was a closed, blatant action that he's talking about. Okay, so then the opposite of that would be an open, ongoing, some might even say subjective action. Romans 14:3. Some of these are repeated, but for the most part, I tried to find a place where each verse only goes to one place. Okay, so Romans 14:3. Okay, so I read Romans 14:3 and so I could give context to Romans 14:4, which was the one who eats everything must not treat with contempt the one who does not, and the one who does not eat everything must not kreno judge the one who does, for God has accepted them. So, yeah, that's actually really interesting passage, and just that it's really hard to nail down this type of thought, because I don't know, I feel like it's been so long that he's speaking at a time where he's done both. He's been a Jew and now he's a Christian, and he's done both of those concepts in life at one after the other. It's been so long, it's just been Christendom. So we think that we have this down and we're doing it, and we may not be doing it. Anyway. Okay, so then we've got condemn. This is actually really interesting, because when I looked up to condemn, and I think what I did was I tried to think of all of the different ideas of judging that I could think of, and then found those examples in the Bible, because that's where I remember hearing them. So so I've got to condemn, in parentheses, the opposite of condone. Now there's another word that started popping up when I did that, and it's close to the kreno. It's katakreno. Strong's G2632. Okay, so I'm going to go to this because these words are right next to each other, and it's in the passage where It's kind of the craziest. Like, I'm talking about Romans if you don't know what I'm talking about. But this passage that Paul gives people in Romans 2 is wild, because he's talking about how all have sinned and all fall short of the glory of God. Then he just goes in on everybody he's writing this letter to, and he's like, you therefore have no excuse, you who pass judgment on someone else, for at whatever point you judge another, you are condemning yourself, because you who pass judgment do the same things. And you're just like, wait, what? I thought we were vibing. I thought we were why are you going hard on me right now? So it says, this is what it says in the Greek, though, when you look it up. He says, you who pass judgment. That's the krino that we've been talking about. Okay, that which you judge another, same word. You condemn, katakrino. Then it says, for the same things you practice, you who pass judgment. Okay, so this is what, I don't know, I'm going to slice the two words. So it says, you therefore have no excuse, you who krino on someone else, for whatever point you krino, you are katakrinoing yourself. So because you judge, you pass judgment, at whatever point you judge someone, you condemn yourself at that point, because you who do the judgment, pass the judgment, do the same things. So, so he's saying the same thing that Jesus is saying. It's literally the same sentiment. Like, I still don't understand the vibe. I got to be honest. I don't know, like, what about passing judgment? Is it just because you do the same things? Because it literally says because. So it says, you have no excuse. And what he's talking about, you don't have any excuse about. Let's go to the bottom of the Romans 1, because he's talking about how all have sinned. And he's talking about how, the wrath of God is being revealed from heaven against all the godlessness and wickedness of people who suppress the truth by their wickedness. And he goes on in great detail about how the wickedness of people and the godlessness of people is being revealed, and how they suppress the truth and wickedness. And you think, they sound terrible. These people sound terrible. Then he say, you don't have an excuse for you passing judgment on someone else. But at whatever point you do that, you're condemning yourself, because you do the same stuff. And it's like, what? So it's hard for me to understand, because I'm not a Roman during this time. I don't know what he's trying to, I'm reading the letter like he's trying to convey something to me. And I'm like, well, I don't do that stuff. What are you talking about? And I don't be passing judgment. So I would just be confused. I'd be reading this stuff like confused. And literally, like, God laughed at me one time, because, we all tend to do this, because you're reading it like it's being said to you. And whatever part of your, wherever you are in your Christian walk or whatever, you're going, you don't know when to not apply it to you, because you're supposed to supposedly apply the whole thing to yourself, right? So God was laughing at me because I didn't understand the parable of the 10 virgins. Because I was like, I don't understand why you wouldn't just, I didn't understand the 5 foolish virgins at all. So, and it is kind of confusing, because if you are supposed to apply it to yourself, and there's 5 wise and 5 foolish, like you're going, am I the wise one or the foolish one? Like, am I both? Do I have moments of being one or the other? Like, you're so confused. And he literally was laughing at me because at the way that this parable was just not for me, and I didn't understand it. That's why you have to have a personal relationship with God, because the Bible will just run you around if you don't know what God is saying about you. And the way that you find out what God is saying about you is you talk to him about you personally. So I just remember him laughing at me about not understanding the parable and not understanding the foolish virgins at all. He's like, that tells you which one you are. You literally can't even get into the mind of these hoes. Because I was like, why don't you just like, I was like, I choose option C. Like, I'm gonna just sit in the dark till they get there. Like, what the hell I need a lantern that bad for? Like, you got 5 other hoes with you that got lights. Just like, don't move. Like, don't move. He'll be there. Like, either that or the sun gonna come up. You'll have a whole giant lantern in the sky. Like, why are we going to the store to get, like, don't freaking move at all. Like, don't miss it. Just don't do it. Like, just even if you foolish and you're like, my lamp is going out. Let me get some of yours. It's like, can I just hold on to your hand, ma'am? I should have brought more oil and that's my bad. I'm gonna just, like, I can hear where y'all are at. I'm gonna just stay, like, you know what I'm saying? It's okay that I can't see right now. Like, he was just dying laughing at me. Like, he was just conveying to me that he could hear my thoughts every time I read that passage, and it would just make him laugh because I was just like puzzling on my own. Like, why the hell would you just don't move? Like, why are you like? He's like, oh my gosh. So anyway, so that's Romans 2:1. It's got 2 different types of. It's using the word judge and judgment for 2 different types of words, and one means condemn, which I guess, is technically a type of judgment. Okay, so then there's another type of judgment that is perception, personal objectivity. It looks like it's going to rain outside. I will get this umbrella. That type of judgment. I'm assuming. I don't know. Let's look at the scriptures before I say that. Okay, so there's quite a few of this one, actually. Like, so far, there's only been like 2 to 4 examples of everything I've read so far. This is the first one that's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So, half dozen, good amount of examples of this. Okay, so perception. Let's try to start in order here. So I think the first one is Luke. Let's see, I got to go back to that one so that I can get back to the other. Okay, so 2919, Crino. Okay, so we're doing Luke 12:57. Luke 12:57. Okay. Why don't you judge for yourselves what is right? Simple, right? Okay, then John 7:24. Stop judging by mere appearances, but instead judge correctly. I don't think that is in contradiction of perception. You can adjust your perception and make it accurate. Judging by appearances is one way to perceive, or you could do better than that and perceive with more than just that. Okay, and then so that's why I put that in that category. And then let's see, John 18:31. Pilate said, "Take him yourselves and judge him by your own law." This is all Crino. You see how vast this word is being used? Take him yourselves and judge him by your own law. So that's not our translators taking this word and making it, the word has the same problem in both languages. It's being used in multiple places. Krino, 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 krino. Judge, 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 judge. It's not our translation. It's the word itself being used this many ways. So take him yourselves and judge him by your own law. Okay, that's Pilate. Okay, and then let's see, Luke. Did I do John 7:24? I think I did. Yeah, I did. Okay, and then I did Luke, I did John, Acts 4. But Peter and John replied, which is right in God's eyes, to listen to you or to him? You be the judges. So this is just simple personal objectivity to people. Sometimes those people are in power to judge you or not. But that's what the way the word is being used, the way that I see it. And then Acts, the way I'm judging it. Acts 15:19. It is my judgment, therefore, that we should not make it difficult for the Gentiles who are turning to God. Okay. And then let's see, Romans 14:5. I think that's the next page. Romans 14:5. One person considers one day more sacred than another. Another considers every day alike. Each of them should be fully convinced in their own mind. So I think here, the krino is the considers. One person krino. One person considers one day more sacred than another. Another krinos every day alike. Each should be convinced. Okay. And then 1 Corinthians 10:15. I speak to sensible people. Judge for yourselves what I say. So it's sort of like it's putting the ball in other people's court to judge for themselves. Like, I'm going to talk to you about what this is, and then you make a judgment. I'm going to do what I need to do. Judge for yourselves whether we should listen to you or to God. Like, good luck with that. Here's what we're going to do, though. It's putting the impetus on the other person about use your personal objectivity in this situation. Use your own judgment in this situation. Okay. And then there's judge in the sense of concluding or determining, which sounds similar, but bet you it ain't. Let's look. Luke 7:43. Okay, next page, previous page. Luke 7:43. Simon replied, I suppose the one who had the bigger debt forgiven. Jesus said, you have judged correctly. So it's slightly different. It's a little more nuanced. It's like, this is the conclusion you drew. It's not an open-ended judge for yourselves. We don't ever hear what the judgment is. Just do that. Like, I don't care to check in with you. I'm just telling you what you need to do. Versus, we're going through this together and you have judged correctly. Then John 7:24. Okay, did I say this already? I feel like I did. Maybe it was just in a different gospel. But John 7:24, stop judging by mere appearances, but instead judge correctly. Okay. And then Acts, quite a few in Acts. Let's see, 13:46. Then Paul and Barnabas answered them boldly, we had to speak the word of God to you first. Since you reject it and do not consider, krino yourselves, worthy of eternal life, we now turn to the Gentiles. Okay. And then Acts 15:19, it is my judgment again. So I put it in both categories because, it is pretty nuanced. It is my judgment, therefore, that we should not make it difficult for the Gentiles who are turning to God. I also put that in the perception, personal objectivity category. And then Acts 21:25. As for the Gentile believers, we have written to them of our decision that they should abstain from food sacrificed to idols, from blood, and from the meat of strangled animals, and from sexual immorality. I wonder which word is that? We have, is it our decision? We have written to them our decision. I mean, it should be a verb, though. It should still be a verb. Hold on. Let me see where the crino is in there. Oh, yeah. Having decided. Okay, so that looks like they were kind of liberal with that translation. But concerning believers who have believed, okay, the Gentiles, we wrote having decided. Yeah, they turned it from a verb to a noun. I mean, okay, whatever. They made the determination. They can. Okay, and then let's see. Then there's the word that means like a sentence, like when you sentence someone to death. And that is actually a slightly different word too. Crema. Is it crema or crema? Strong's G2917. It's only 2919 is crino. So they're very closely related. Okay, so let's look at that one. John. Hold up. I messed up my thing. Interlinear. Having decided. Crino. Okay, John 5:27. Bro, where's 5:27? I just see 5:22. Dude, that's creepy. Okay, let's do 5:30 then. By myself, I can do nothing. I judge only as I hear, and my judgment is just, for I seek not to please myself, but him who sent me. I don't know why I would put that in a sentence. I mean, my judgment is just, I imagine is why I did that. John 18:31. Oh, we got another repeat. Take him yourselves and judge him by your own law. That's Pilate speaking. And then, Luke 19:22. Oh, this is a parable. His master replied, I will judge you by your own words. You wicked servant. You knew, did you, that I am a hard man, taking out what I did not put in and reaping what I did not sow? Trauma. That was a traumatizing passage for me. Not anymore, but praise the Lord. So the master says, I will judge you by your own words. Which, when you think about it, is a really effective way to judge. Like, I'm just take the words you literally just said out of your mouth and use those. That's a reliable litmus test of what you should be judged by. I'm going to judge you according to your thing that you just said. That should do it. So John 5:23. Did I look these up myself? Because it's not on my list. That's so weird. Oh, maybe it's this word because it's this 2917 word. Let's look up Luke 19:22. Because I don't think I've done that yet. Oh yeah, I did just do that. Okay. Then the only non-John one I have left is Acts 7:7. Acts 7:7. But I will punish the nation they serve as slaves, God said, and afterwards they will come out of that country and worship me in this place. I have a bet that we're talking about the word punish. So yeah, I think I went on a tangent and I started looking up this word punish. Let me just look that up for shits and giggles. punish the nation. Oh, no, that is Crino. Never mind. Will judge. They use the word punish. Okay. And then let's see, the last one is Romans 2:3. So when you, a mere human being, pass judgment on them and yet do the same things, do you think you will escape God's krima? So that whole passage, bro, he's using 3 different words that just say judgment, judgment, judgment. Now that's a little bit, our fault, our translation, but not really. They're so close together. You therefore have no excuse, you who pass judgment, you who krino, pass judgment on someone else, for whatever point you krino another, you are katakrino, condemning yourself, because you who krino do the same things. Then he says, so now we know that God's judgment, I have to look at that. I don't think that one is krino. That would be even more insane. That would be 4 different types of the word judgment in one passage. So when you, a mere human being, pass judgment on them, and you do the same things, krino, do you think you will escape God's krima? I don't know. You're probably like, girl, you nerding out. You lost me entirely. But I'm just like, what? This is insane. Let me look up and see what that word is. Now we know that God's judgment. I'll actually kind of be blown away if it is. Bruh, it's krima 2917. Okay. So he says, now we know that God's krima against those who do such things is based on truth. So there he's talking about God's sentence. Now we know that God's sentence, his judgy determination against those who do such things, is based on truth. Not his krino, meaning his personal gauge that he uses to make decisions. Are you kind of getting what I'm saying with this? There's different types. And then there's the condemnation, case closed, condemned, which is katakrino, which is the the punishment or the consequence of krinoing. Like, it's complex is what I'm saying. Okay, hold on. My husband is interrupting me with a very important text about if I want the other half of this chicken sandwich. And I better answer or it's going to be a problem. Okay, so, all right. So, yeah, I feel like that really illustrates what I'm trying to say. Okay, what am I at? Oh, an hour. Okay. It's like a normal everyday thing. Okay, so then we've got the okay, maybe that's what happened. So we've got sentence, which is the krima word that I was just saying, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got 5 versions of that. And then we've got godly condemnation that brings death. That's God condemning. And then we've got the human type of condemnation that brings death. So I think that's what this John 5:23, that's probably why I couldn't find it, although that doesn't really make sense. I should still be able to find it. I know that John 3:17 is probably there. Okay, so John 5, let me just try to find that 5:23 because I did not find it last time. Okay. And I think too, like the 2919 is the root. So if it gets conjugated at all, it can seem like a different word. But that is the root, I think, is what the 2919 is. Okay, so John 5:22. Bro, I need to look that up anyways, because this say. So remember earlier we said that Jesus said that he passes judgment on no one. Then he says his words will judge you at the last day. Here it says, and he also said that there is a judge that's worthy, or there's another judge that will judge them, right? Okay, here he says, moreover, the Father judges no one, but has entrusted all judgment to the Son, that all may honor the Son just as they honor the Father. Whoever does not honor the Son does not honor the Father who sent him. And that is John 5:22. Oh, it looks like 23 because I put the comma right there. Okay, so let me look at that. He's asking me, he's blowing me up about fries and Coke. Bro, just leave me whatever. Just leave me whatever you don't eat, bro. I'm live. Okay. Okay, so moreover, the Father judges no one. It's Crino. That's so wild. Okay, now my mom's calling me. What's going on? Hello? Hey. Her phone did? Oh, she's probably been on it. She has like a 6-hour limit every day. So she probably just exceeded it, but it's her phone or her computer. Okay. Yeah, I'll unlock it, I guess. Okay. All right, bye. Oh, goodness. Children. Okay. So, godly condemnation. Yeah. That's really interesting, though, because I just did that whole catacrino, crema thing about a sentence. And here he's talking about, this is specifically talking about God's, the 2919, the crino, the inward judging, not sentencing, not condemnation. So the Father judges no one in that way. So the Father judges no one. The way that Jesus is talking about, where he says, judge not, yes, lest ye be judged. That way, the Father judges no one, but has entrusted all judgment to the Son. Bro, that's crazy. That's crazy. I feel like I'm on the verge of understanding something, but I also want to finish what I was talking about. It's kind of like trying to help me here. Okay. So then let me look up the human condemnation thing really quick. Acts 13. Acts 13:27. Okay. The people of Jerusalem and their rulers did not recognize Jesus, yet in condemning him, okay, they fulfilled the words of the prophets that are read every Sabbath. So that definitely means human condemnation in the way of death. I mean, that's pretty obvious. I'm going to double check and make sure that is Crino. I think it is for me to do all that. Let's see. By condemning him. Yeah. That's interesting that it uses Crino and not that crema. So it must mean like in attitude. It's like they condemned him sort of spiritually, is that krino. And then the literal version of it is like krima. And it's like that condemning in the heart caused it to happen in real life kind of thing. Which is sort of, yeah, okay. So even so the difference in these words, the krima, the katakrino, all this stuff is surrounding the condemnation, not just judging. So the word gets slightly different when it comes to condemnation. That's wild. Okay, let me speed this up a little bit. There's a couple of instances of considering, just which I think I talked about pretty well. Then there is just literally the legal kind. The way that there's like as many examples of that as anything else. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 examples of just legal judging, as in like a deliberation. And then let me look up this one that's like Garner's rebuke. Okay, am I still in my krino or am I doing something else here? Okay. I didn't want to have to get off that page, but I was so curious. Romans 2:1. That's that you who pass judgment, right? Okay, the Garner rebuke, fair enough. And then John 8:26. I have much to say in judgment of you, but he who sent me is trustworthy, and what I have heard from him, I tell the world. So even in the way that Jesus is talking, we hear him say that he doesn't judge. He's telling you not to judge not. He's saying that he doesn't judge. He's also saying he has much to say in judgment of you. And he's also has said, judge correctly. You know what I'm saying? This is, it makes me feel not so bad that I don't have this concept down when you actually study it and sort of try to expand it out. And then there's, judge in the casual sense, which is probably, judge for yourselves. We've read a couple of letters about that. Make your own judgment in a situation. There's a lot of those in Acts. Let me just go down to Acts then. Because let's see, Acts 20:16. Paul decided, this is what I'm talking about. Paul krenoed. Paul had decided to sail past Ephesus to avoid spending time in the province of Asia, for he was in a hurry to reach Jerusalem. That's the word they used. Acts 27:1. When it was decided that we would sail for Italy, Paul and some of the other prisoners were handed over to a centurion, blah, blah, blah. So it was, we decided this and then we did this. Same word for that and passing eternal judgment on a person that causes death. Okay, then authority. Do I have any acts for that? Let's see. Let's do John. John 8:50. I am not seeking glory for myself, but there is one who seeks it, and he is the judge. That's not a verb, so I'm actually curious to see if they use kreno for that. There is one who seeks and judges. So that got there's a little liberality there with that, because they turned it into a noun again. Okay, John 12:48. There is a judge for the one who rejects me and does not accept my words. Okay. So that's probably supposed to be a verb too. Romans 14:4. I mean, you could say, I personally, if I was in charge of translating, I would leave it a verb. I wouldn't try to do that just to make the flow good or whatever. But that's just me. Who are you to judge someone else's servant? Okay, so we've talked about that. I guess that is a question of authority as well. And then 1 Corinthians 5:12. What business is it of mine to judge those outside the church? Are you not to judge those inside? So yeah, I do like that sort of nuanced thing that I made. It's about, this is what you have a right to do as a believer. You have a right to judge in the sense of, arbitrate. Like, you have to decide what's going on in your organization. Here's another, same thing. 13. God will judge those outside. Expel the wicked person from among you. So, yeah, I hope that you get from this that this word and this concept is really, really complex, and don't be fooled by anybody who tells you that they got it 100% in the bag. So what I sort of took away from this too, from this whole study, is what we do have authority to judge as believers, according to the known law. We can judge believers. We can judge the world, even though Paul says not to judge the world. But Jesus later says that we will be fit to judge the world and angels, apparently. And I don't know where the disciples reference is. I should have wrote a scripture, but I didn't. And I also noticed that authority to judge has to do with, in terms of the second commandment, because the Lord is showing me a lot about the first commandment and the second commandment, and how a lot of people are trying to do the second commandment without doing the first commandment. If you're a believer, that's a no-no. You're going to get the wrong answer every time. So, and the consequence to doing that wrong is receiving the judgment of the Lord. What we don't have the authority to judge, apparently, this is about the only thing that I could see, is that we do not have the authority to judge, not the believer themselves, but the individual believer's freedom level. We have no authority to judge their freedom level. If they eat everything, if they eat meat sacrificed to idols, you can't judge them. If they are staying away from doing any of that, you can't judge them. If they celebrate Christmas, don't judge them. If they're not celebrating Christmas or Halloween or nothing, don't judge them. We do not have the authority to judge individual believers' freedom level. And I took that to mean that is because that's directly related to the first commandment. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. That is a personal thing between him and them. That's why it says, keep this matter between you and God. Judge for yourselves, blah, blah, blah. That has to do with the first commandment. How are you serving God? Everything that has to do with love your neighbor as yourself, the second one, yeah, that's when you're able to judge matters, this and that. You got a little bit more leeway as far as authority is concerned. And depending on how well you do that, you are subject to God's judgment. And then in the first commandment, if you, the consequence of not following the first commandment is you are subject to God's jealousy. And we see that in the Old Testament primarily. When they did not love the Lord their God with all their heart, soul, mind, and strength, it caused a jealousy in God. And I know that sounds like, oh, don't make God jealous. He's gonna, call you up like a boyfriend and find out where you are, and blah, blah, blah. It's a lot more cosmically, when it matters on a cosmic level when it's that. And I don't know, I don't really have time to explain now, but it's like, that level of, it's basically, that's where your relationship is you're making your relationship rocky if you're not loving the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. If you had any intention of doing that, then don't flip and say that you're gonna. But if you've committed yourself to God, don't be making it rocky. Like if you're in a marriage, don't be staying out with your best guy friend. Like do that when you're single and when you don't, or when you're like just playing around. But once you're in the committed relationship, you got to do the first part of the marriage, which is be faithful. And you will undermine the entire thing if you're not doing that thing. So that's kind of what I took from that. And with that, I'm going to leave you to your days. Hopefully, that was coherent enough for most people to understand. Basically, judging is complex. The word itself is being used in all these different ways in the Bible. And, this isn't meant to be comprehensive, just to sort of scratch the surface and show you that there's a lot more to this mechanism of judging than what we try to gloss over and tell people to do or not do. So, all right. Thanks for studying the Bible with me today. This is me signing off, and I will see you people later. Bye.